Now being 5:45, I'll call the monthly Finance Audit Committee meeting to order. This meeting is accessible to people with disabilities. Microphones or telephones will be used by all speakers. Large print materials are available upon request. If you'd like either of these accommodations, please contact Mary Waldron. The Notice of Non-Discrimination Rights and Protections to Beneficiaries regarding the Title VI non-discrimination protections and the state non-discrimination protections is available on the Old Colony Planning Council website. So at this time, I'd like to ask for a moment of silence to honor and remember Frank Staffier. I know you've all heard from Mary that of his passing. And I'd like to have a moment of silence, please, for Frank. Thank you, everyone. All right, so Frank would want us to get back to business, so here we go. He would. In the packet, the March 2025 meeting minutes.
I'll do roll call, Christine.
Oh, thank you, Mary. Thank you.
Christine Joy.
Present.
Stephen Santasonio.
Present.
Sandra Wright.
Present.
Noreen O'Toole.
Present.
And for staff, Charlie Kilmer, Brenda Robinson, and Mary Waldron. Oh, and Megan Fournier. Sorry, and Megan.
All right, great. All right. Do we have a motion to accept the March meeting minutes?
Motion so moved.
Thank you, Sandy. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Thank you, Stephen. All right. Motion is second. Mary, can you do roll call vote for approval?
Christine Joy.
Approved.
Stephen Santasonio.
Approved.
Sandra Wright.
Approve.
And Noreen O'Toole.
Approved.
Thank you. All right. Now on to the March 2025 financials. I'll turn things over to Brenda.
Oh, Brenda, you're muted.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay.
I thought I came in with sound. I never muted myself. That's kind of strange. Okay, here I am. Okay, at the end of March, we show a positive financial standing with a 1.46% budget surplus. Available surplus funds remaining are at $179,066. Statement of expenditures report shows total expenses for the month at $320,999.33. Cash position report shows income for the month at $441,986.56. Disbursements for the month were $610,288.96. The total cash available at month's end was $1,870,176.99. The OPEB account had a loss of $33,082.82, bringing the ending balance in the OPEB account to $1,248,837.33. Budget resources report. Cash receipts being $441,986.56 brings the total year-to-date receipts to $5,423,706.56. AAA report. Outstanding balance for AAA pass-through programs was $539,976.04. Outstanding balance for AAA admin and ombudsman programs was $108,130.95, bringing the total outstanding balance for all AAA programs to $647,506.99. Volunteer transportation account beginning balance was $162,273.14. Donations received were a total of $301.40, bringing the ending balance in the fund to $162,574.54. Does anyone have any questions at this point for any of the prior reports? Okay, moving on. ROM statement and activity. Receipts were 5,800. I'm sorry, balance at the beginning of the month was $161,376.81. Receipts were $5,850, bringing total receipts to $68,650. Expenses were $7,270.76, bringing the total expenses to $75,043.10. The ending statement balance was $150,793.22. Budget reports. Spent to date average rate at the end of the month, not average, I'm sorry. The spent to date percentage rate at the end of the month was 73.54%. The ideal percentage in the 9th month of the fiscal year would be 75%. So that leaves us with a 1.46% surplus. Available surplus funds remaining are a total of, oops, I didn't update this, a total of 100, I can't see the number, I'm sorry, I didn't change it on my cheat sheet. Can you move down a little bit so I can see the miscellaneous number? Up, I need to see the middle of the budget, I'm sorry, $179,066, sorry about that, Megan. Page 1, expenditures at the end of the month were a total of $2,314.910. Budgeted funds remaining at the end of the month were a total of $832,714. Page 2, projected grant income for this fiscal year remains at $3,147,624. And on the pass-through funds, we have remaining $1,996,327. Okay, sorry about that. I got everything confused. Okay, sorry. Projected so that's the end of the regular financials, except we have the list of the combined accounts payable and cash transfers for the month. So the next 2 pages are the combined accounts payable and cash transfers. And that's the end of the regular financials for the month. Okay, do you want me just to move on, Mary? Do we need a vote on the regular financials?
Why don't we, no,
Do you want to vote on these right now first?
yes.
Okay. All right. Any questions for Brenda before we vote on the accepting the March financials with just noting the changes that Brenda called out, like to the surplus cash and other things. So do we have a motion to accept the March financials?
I'll make that motion.
Motions,
Motion
I'll
we go ahead.
second it.
Okay, motion Stephen, second Sandy. Can we have a roll call vote, Mary?
Christine Choi,
Accept.
Stephen Santisonio,
Accept.
Andrew Wright,
Accept.
Noreen O'Toole,
Accept.
and Val Massard.
Accept.
All right, thank you all. All right, Brenda, do you want to go on to the fiscal reserves?
Yes. The monthly payroll is
Can we just make that-
approximately,
Thank you. Sorry, just want to
that's
make.
okay, is approximately $175,448. Our monthly indirect AP averages $36,013. $7,925 of that is ROM, for a total of $211,461 in those expenses. Cash position report shows the following money accounts, which is funds immediately available. Accounts are in order. Sorry, 1 second. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm not doing the summary. Okay, total cash balances for all accounts is $1,808,787. The all account balance is decreased by $542 to $542,225, leaving the total unallotted cash available on April 15th at $1,266,562. Fund reductions are the amount of funds that have already been allotted for specific grants and programs only, such as the OPEB account, volunteer transportation account, and advanced payments that we've received that need to be used for specific grants. The accounts receivable balance on April 15th was a total of $743,252. ROM account balance on April 15th was $146,432. After the March payment, the building loan had a principal balance of $274,614. Does anyone have questions on the fiscal reserves?
And for the members, this again is, it's pretty much what was up in what was presented in the financials, but up to the date. And there's no need to have a vote on this. This is more just for an FYI on a monthly basis.
So may I? Through you, Christine?
Sure, absolutely, Sandy.
Where do we stand? I know we, had the big crunch. Now, where do we stand with the grants coming in? Are we okay?
So, Madam Delegate from Bridgewater, tomorrow meeting, Paul Lomano is going to be doing a presentation on the grants. But we're monitoring it pretty much on a daily basis. But we are continuing to, federally, we're doing okay. Those that we have had funding, we're continuing to get the reimbursements, and we're closing out some of those federal funds on the state. Again, staff has been pretty incredible, being aggressive after every opportunity to work with our communities. So I will say it here since you asked the question. So the District Local Technical Assistance Funding, we call it the DLTA, that funds the plans and things like that. So all the regional planning agencies, there's a line item that we normally get 3,000, we asked for 4,000, and then there was this extra CARES dollars that would come in that would give some additional funding. We were level funded for the 3 million for all 13 regional planning agencies, and there was an amendment that we are many of you were on CC'd on an email that I sent to the legislature to support the amendment, and that amendment did not pass last night. So
No.
we're
Okay.
level funded at the 3 million.
Yeah.
And at the meeting I had today in Boston, we'll be looking to pursue some other sources of funding to replace those. So, but we'll have a much more in-depth presentation tomorrow night at the council meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Hey, anyone else before I move ahead to the projected FY26 budget?
Thanks, Brenda.
Okay. The projected FY26 expenses are currently at $3,116,269. I'm only going to talk about the things that are that notable increases. The admin professional fees, which sits at the very top. The increase there is due to the biannual fee from Odyssey Advisors, our actuary. This will be billed in FY26, and the auditor increases somewhat each year of the contract. So that explains the increase in the admin professional fees. Fringe benefits, regular employer charges increased substantially due to newly added employees, as well as several employees having increased their coverages to family plans. The retired employer charges increased due to Ray Guarino moving from regular employee to retired employee. Salaries increased due to annual merit increases. The longevity payments in FY26, though lower than FY25, are still a total of $9,579. This increase in salaries increases all payroll-related charges, such as payroll taxes and payroll provider service charges. All other expenses have been budgeted conservatively to keep the expenses down as much as possible. The current projected FY26 income of $2,876,834 is based on ongoing grants that included FY26 in the contract or agreement, and new grants that have been awarded but will not be billed until FY26. Based on history, the income number should increase based on new grants that are in the works and will continue to be sought after. Does anyone have any questions at all about the expenses listed here other than the ones that I addressed?
And before, there are others who are question, so one of the things that we've been able to do and going into a lot of unknowns, right? Charlie, Brenda and I, along with Sean, the managers, really trying to be very conservative, in this budget presentation. And as Brenda just went along and talked about, where's the differential on some of these items. If you can see the bottom line number from 2024 to 2025 and what we're projecting for 2026, those numbers are pretty much either, comparative to last year or the current year that we're in, fiscal year, we're coming in lower. We are really trying to be as conservative. But then to the point that Sandy brought up earlier is I'm telling you, this staff is just an incredible job. I mean, not just Paul, I'm talking about Lori and Rhiannon and Joanne and Don and Nick, and Charlie's staff and Matt. I could just go on with everybody, digging in and finding ways and applying for funds. So we are coming in conservative, and I wish we could be in a much more favorable setting, but I'm pretty confident, and I know that this, along with Brenda and along with Charlie and Sean, are also confident in this proposed budget.
Also, over on the far right-hand side, there are two columns. If you want to glide up to the top, this shows the percentage increase or decrease between FY24 to FY25 and then FY25 to projected FY26. So you can see.
And want to give kudos to Christine. So Christine, Becky, Charlie, Brenda, and I, we met just to kind of go over this, and Christine came up with the idea about having these percentages, and appreciate your input on that, Christine. And hopefully, I think to hear from the members about if there's something in this budget, right? We're going to present the same thing tomorrow night. And if there's something that you see that's glaring that you would like to talk about tonight.
Yeah, just shoot me an email if there's anything anyone wants me to go into more detail about, and I'll be happy to do that.
And
I think they're going to talk about it tonight, I think.
Go ahead, Sandy.
Yeah, I know so many towns, being around there, just, experiencing such difficulties and really searching for, ways to be able to sustain themselves. And so I guess my question, as I've, mentioned to any of the other towns, if you have looked into any other regional agencies to see if we're comparable to them, and, what they're looking at and doing versus what we have. It's really tough. I think it's a time where we really have to tighten up, as we all know. And I think you all do a fabulous job in managing all of this. And, I greatly appreciate it, but it might be worth looking at other regional agencies, not maybe the ones that are up more in a depressed area, but one that's comparable to what, we are down here. And I don't know if you have done that, you may have, but.
So I think the only comparable, it's a really good question, Sandy, and I think the only really comparable has been when Christine led the effort in terms of comparative for the executive director position. And I know that there's been some salary, what do you call them? You know what I mean? Anyway, but, eventually this, the personnel committee, I know Stephen's on it tonight, personnel committee will be meeting. And I don't have it ready for tonight, but I think at the personnel committee, which will be in May, I could do some comparison in terms of, are you talking about salaries more so, or are you talking about budgets?
Well, I think a little bit of all of it. I think everybody's going to look at the fact that, we've got to really cut back as much as we possibly can, which you have. I'm not saying you have not. Like, you have done a great job, but I know some places are, going without pay increases. I don't know how we can cut back on anymore, whether it's paper or toner or whatever, but I think that we just really need to be fiscally responsible. And I'm not saying we're not, so please don't, feel like I'm insulting in any way at all. I think you've done a great job. You've held it together, but just, I'm just looking and hearing what everybody else is experiencing. It's tough. It's going to be tough.
So I will at least respond by saying, yes, I agree. This is probably as fiscally conservative as we've been in at least since I've been here anyway. And
Yep.
we weren't sure about things during COVID, right? That was another time we weren't
Right. Yep.
uncertain about it, things. And so, there is some work that we can do, just to do some comparison. It's hard when you're dealing with Western Mass regional planning agencies because there's a lot more farmland, there's a lot more open space, but let me
Right.
take that request, Sandy, and between now and the personnel committee,
Yep.
that be flushed out a little bit more.
I think I'm on that committee also,
You are.
and I think Megan had sent me something saying. Yep.
Could I add something to that also?
Go ahead, Noreen.
I think what you're asking for, Sandy, is a great idea to look at the overall on the overview of, other RPAs. But they're so specialized, the RPAs, and what we do is very different from some of the RPAs. And the monies that our RPA, OCPC, brings in is pretty substantial. So even if you're looking at salaries, it depends on the workload. It depends on their expertise in what they're doing. I think our agency is pretty seasoned on what we do. And I just think it's hard to look at, and as Mary mentioned, like western part of the state, the excess land. I just think every RPA has their own personality and their own communities. They might have less towns than we have. We deal with a lot of towns, and we've increased over the years in towns, which a lot of the RPAs haven't. And so I think that task is difficult, Sandy. I do. I'm just taking it from the planner view side point. But I think it's something we could look at, but I think you can't compare and contrast with what these other RPAs are doing unless they're doing something that maybe we're not doing at all. I'm not sure, but I think that's a huge task. I do.
Yeah, and I
Charlie-
totally agree with you. I'm just concerned of, the different things that we've been hit with.
Right.
With the grants and, the federal government and other things coming up that, I think that we have to be especially, careful of, where we go in the future, look, at the
Mhm.
future. So,
Right. I see that.
Yeah.
Right.
Charlie, I know that you had just texted me. I asked for you just to speak about it. There was a MARPA meeting back in March that you attended.
Yeah, thanks, Mary, and thanks, Cindy, for the question. Last month at the MARPA directors, there was kind of like a round robin table about kind of what were they thinking for budgets, and a lot of them were similar to what we were doing, kind of 2% all the way down to kind of level funded, being real cautious about spending on supplies, and that's where that one pager from Brenda came along about what is our cash position. So that was one of the things we thought would be important to keep this board updated on, how much we have in kind of in a rainy day fund. But we sounded similar to what the other agencies were doing. Nothing, they weren't going to do extravagant pay raises, and being real cautious about direct costs and the like, and any ventures like that. So you seem to be on par with what they were thinking as well. So, and again, it's about chasing grants too. And
Mm.
one of the things we're
Right.
still waiting on is that $2 million federal grant. And
Yep.
every time we ask, it's like the Massachusetts federal people say, we don't know, we're still waiting on headquarters and we'll let you know once we hear something.
Right.
Kind of them being polite. It's like, stop asking,
Hmm.
we'll let you know when we know. So
Right.
Just to interrupt for a minute, Charlie or Mary, are we eligible for any of those foundation grants, which are a little different
So
from the state and the federal monies?
it's a good question. I don't know if everybody had heard Noreen's just asking about, are we eligible for some of the foundation and for the philanthropic? So the answer is yes, using our 501c3. But some of those foundation funds are also, we look, Paul, that's been the whole hire. Paul's been here for over a year. And that's what his job is, really looking at what we're eligible for, us as an OCPC. But we've activated the OCPC ROM has been in existence. We are just making sure all of the criteria for us to maintain that 501c3 to apply for, the Bar Foundation or, any other ones. And we're keeping our eyes on it. We applied for the Woods Foundation under the 501c3. The challenge with that is because while the OCPC ROM has been in existence for quite a while, it has not been used as a formal organization as
Right.
OCPC. So we're just
Right.
kind of dealing with some of those growing pains, but we're applying for them. And again, you'll see tomorrow night, the Economic Development Department, and working with partners, and when it's $50,000 here and another $50,000 here and another $50,000 here, it does add up. And that all kind of helps. Again, Brenda at one point had this mega, I'm talking, it's going to go beyond the screen, that had, so some of these grants are calendar year, some of these grants are state fiscal year, and some of them are federal fiscal year. And some of them are a contract that we have with the town that might be for 2 months. So trying to track all of that
Yeah.
and spread it out. So the magic that Brenda and now working with Paul and working with the managers, it's an art form that I sit back and, all that we want to do is that we're not burning out our staff. It's really, as much as one might think that there may be lots of people out in that workforce, but it's a tough world out there. And, we certainly don't want to lose any of our current staff. And again, balancing all of that is a priority and how we manage our day-to-day activities. I don't know if that's helpful.
Yes, it is. Thank you.
That's great, Mary. Thank you.
You're welcome, Noreen. All right.
All right.
Welcome.
Any more questions on the FY 2026 proposed budget? All right, seeing none, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the FY 2026 budget to bring to the full council for their review and approval tomorrow night.
Motion so moved.
Okay, thank you, Sandy. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Val, thank you. Roll call vote, please, Mary.
Christine Joy,
Accept.
Stephen Santisonio,
Accept.
Sandra Wright,
Accept.
Noreen O'Toole. Oh, Noreen, you're muted. Just wave your hand if you can.
Accept.
Thank you. And Val Massard.
Accept.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Council.
everyone. As Mary had stated, we did go through that line by line with Charlie and Brenda several weeks ago, and really asked some in-depth questions and felt very comfortable with where it came in. So I appreciate your excellent questions and your support of that budget for the full council as well. So thank you, everyone, for that.
Madam
All right.
President, I think just under that budget, because it was approved already, but I wanted just to quickly touch upon that IT budget if I.
Perfect. Thank you, Mary.
And so, and this was in your packet,
Yeah.
Right Technology, we continue to utilize. He works in quarters, so he was going to be presenting a newer budget. But if you can see, this is really kind of a constant budget. He has not gone up, in my conversation with him. A 1% increase is extremely generous in terms of the times that we contact him. You know, our laptops are our biggest cost at this point. None of our laptops are right now are under warranty, and they're all about the same age and aging. So we are being very careful. We're instructing staff to be very careful in utilizing them. And, you know, again, we'll be keeping a watch on this. And if you can see in green, because of the security issues, while Right Technology no longer is a tenant of ours, but they host our security cameras. So it's been a benefit, and for the $480 a year, it's well worth it. So that's the overview. This is embedded into the budget that you just approved. And then just the overview, again, a testimony, not on this one, on the assessment piece, Megan. Thank you. And again, this is in your project. When we first started, oh my goodness, I remember we had so many red, and for those who've been around, it was
Yeah.
it was frightening actually, but through your support, through the council support for the funding for our IT, with a new server, if you can see, it's all green and it's great. From a meeting earlier that I was at in Boston, they talked about cybersecurity, and Christine and I and Charlie had some conversations prior to this meeting as well, but there is at least once a week a cybersecurity
Incident.
Incident.
at least.
Yeah.
And it's increasing. And the fact that 4 years ago, that we have invested in Right Technology, it's been a godsend. So just to scrolling down, I think it's really just important, you know, if you can see here, right, just in terms of the response, you know, the recovery, all of our emails go through a email management system, and it's been, you know, and now staff are saying, hey, this looks like a spam, and tells everybody. It works great. So everybody has that. Now we're trained that we don't click on things like we used to. So that's all I just wanted to tell you. It is part of the budget, but just appreciation to all of the support. Again, this is one of the things that Frank Staffier would be supporting too, right? He'd be saying, let's
Oh,
just.
absolutely. Sure.
Mary,
Thank you.
Mary, how often do you swap out your laptops, like just to keep up to date with the latest software? At some point, they kind of like there's a shelf life to them before they become slow, and it's not
They-
worth maintaining versus getting new ones, you know?
They do. So Right Technology says every 5 years we should be switching out.
Right.
And that is standard. And I think if it were possible funding wise, we'd be every 3 years. So software, they are right on that, particularly of the software that we use for like pavement management on the transportation side, you know, where there's surveys and there's, you know, all of, so we're step in step with Right Technology. They're our administrators. No one can add on software without getting the approval of Right Technology. So while we are beyond the 5 years, I think that with great protection, I think we've only, I can't remember, Megan, but I think maybe we switched up maybe 3 laptops within the last year. I'm not exactly sure, but we're monitoring that. And I think our budget that we proposed, well, that's another good reason why we're conservative in terms of our numbers. Again, don't forget, right? We don't have the landlines anymore. We're using our
Right.
cell phones. And
Yeah.
so our cell phones also have our emails, and it's got the protection software on those. So between the cell phones and our laptops, it all has protection, and we continue to monitor that. So it's a really good question, Stephen. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions for Mary?
Mm-mm.
All right, so we're on to updates on insurance policies. Brenda's going to handle that one for us.
Okay, so this really is just an overall view of all our insurances. It shows the policy dates, the ones that have been paid so far this year, and the ones that we've not yet received. So this is just something that we watch and so that everyone can be aware of the insurances, all of the policies across the board for between ROM and OCPC. And that really is what this graph is all about. We're going to keep this in SharePoint so we can monitor them better, because sometimes they, they don't always come on time and things like that. So does anyone have any questions about any of these insurance policies?
And I
That's
think
right.
the only, I'm sorry, only wait.
No, go ahead, Mary, go ahead.
I think the only thing we wanted to add, it came from a meeting today, and it's the whole cyber insurance that came from a meeting with MARPA today. And it's one thing for us to have it, and in fact, it's one of the things we'll put on our list to do is to look, but there is specialized insurance, and one of the MAPC had a violation, as well as Charlie was talking about, there's a video about the city of Lowell that really shut them down. So we want to make sure that we have that protection, and by the next meeting, we'll have that be answered for you. But this is in your packet. That's also in your Google Drive.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, Stephen had a
Well,
question.
No, I was just gonna make a comment that drone insurance is more than my car insurance. I didn't think, I didn't think, I didn't think it cost that much to insure a drone, or maybe a few drones, but just,
So it's a good question, but it's also a good question. We go through, as it says here, our Roger Keith, because it's in the air. And because I think of, and certainly the pilots that we have, they're very skilled. They're truly skillful, and that's a whole nother art form. But yeah, it does come with it. And but the drones are also being used a lot more, right, Charlie? Thank you, Stephen.
yeah.
Yeah, it's more for the liability as opposed to replacing the drone itself. If it went off course and hit somebody, like an injury or whatnot.
Hard hats are required, right?
Mhm.
Thanks, Megan. I think we're good.
All right, Mary, update on community assessments.
So this will be very quickly. It's all again embedded in the budgets, but this is giving an overview. And I want to say thank you to Charlie Kilmer. He has kept this going since he's been around. If you see, Megan, if you can just go to the beginning. It is from 2010, 2011. So we Old Colony Planning Council, receive a 2.5% every year. There's a couple little pieces in there in 2014 and 2017, and Charlie told me why, but he'll explain it in a minute. But so we automatically get that 2.5%. One of the reasons why I'm bringing this up is that MAPC, Metropolitan Area Planning Council, had proposed about increasing their percentage, moving beyond the 2.5%. Obviously, you increase that 2.5%, that means more money to us. The challenge, and this was an internal discussion Charlie, Brenda, and I had, is that, well, yes, it could be more revenue, but they have 101 communities. We have 17. A couple of our communities pay both into OCPC and MAPC. For us, while it would be more revenue, it's a struggle, right? Particularly in these times. The other thing about the assessments, there's only two of us, Old Colony Planning Council and MAPC. We don't contact the town to get our assessment. It is through, it goes through A&F, but the treasurer's office actually disperses to us. And it's a little wonky. I think if we mess with it, then it opens up, like, how is this all happening? And not all the regional planning agencies get it this way. But I present this to you only because, right, so out of our big budget that we just went through, $160,000 a year comes, and that then is utilized for the most part as a match to the for DLTA as well as for the EDA grants. So it's stretched very thin. If you can look at, some of you may know some of the from particularly personnel committee, that may pay for one person with overhead, right? Maybe. And so, but we utilize those and leveraging it to get more money, applying for grants and the funding that we have to sustain ourselves. So I just wanted us to highlight that we won't be presenting this to council tomorrow. This is just for the finance committee.
Thank you, Mary. All right, we're at the end of our agenda here, so other business, I would say, just let everybody know that Mary's going to stay on top of any arrangements for Frank and let us know so that anyone that would like to attend any services will have the information. So and she just shared how our hearts and thoughts and prayers go out to Sean and Jen and Frank's wife and he will be missed by all of us. For anybody that worked with Frank, he was a very special man. So he leaves a void in OCPC and Avon to be sure. So that is all that we've got for tonight. So can we have a motion to adjourn?
Make that motion.
All right. Do we have a second? All right. All in favor? Just want to raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
All right, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow night at the full
you.
council meeting.
And that will
Thank
be at
you.
6
Thank you all
o'clock.
for
Thank you.
coming.
Thank
Good
you.
night,
Val,
everyone.
Good
Val,
night.
can you stay on with Megan and I? Thank you.